Good morning, my fellow humans. Today, I'm going to be talking about the purity ring and why it was so stupid. So, as some of you may know, I grew up as a Christian. I grew up in a very strict household, very controlling, very authoritarian. I was so controlled, I couldn't even be myself. And I hated being a kid because I grew up in a very overly strict Christian household. It was so strict, it was crazy. So, anyways, when something big and popular happened within Christianity, I'm talking about mainstream Christianity, evangelical Christianity, my parents jumped on board and went along with the program. So, when the purity ring happened, it was very popular in the mid 1990s. And so, like around 1997, that's the year when I turned 13. So, that year, I was given the purity ring for my birthday. And so, the purity ring represents saving sex for marriage. So, I get this ring. And here's the funny part. If you give a teenager a ring and you tell them this ring means don't have sex, well, guess what the teenager's going to think about? Sex. That's what the teenager's going to think about. So I thought about sex a little bit when I was 12, but I thought about it more when I got the purity ring. My parents gave me the purity ring and they told me it means to save sex for marriage. And I agreed with that message. I thought I think that saving sex for marriage is good, but having the purity ring made me think about sex even more. Okay? So that's why I think it was very popular then, but when I look back, it was pretty stupid. So at the church we went to, many of the kids at church, they were also into the purity thing. Actually, the parents wanted to give their kids the purity ring because it was very popular. So I have a relative, and she was homeschooled, and she liked to joke and say, "Hey, if you're about to, have sex, then if you wear the purity ring, you're supposed to look at your purity ring and remember that you're not supposed to have sex." And so that's what she said. So she got the ring when she was 13. And she was happy to have her purity ring, but she kept talking about sex. And she was very curious about sex. She was boy crazy. She had the purity ring. And as a result, she ended up breaking her promise. She ended up having sex before marriage because she kept thinking about it. She had this ring. She kept thinking about it. And the ring motivated her to think about it, and that's how it was for a lot of kids. Now, before that happened, we had a speaker at our church. We went to a New Testament church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we had a speaker come speak. He was a young man. He was probably 21 years old. Good for him. He was a young man, and he gave his testimony how he wanted to save sex for marriage, and he's talking to us about it. And I'm this silly little kid, and I'm like, this is when I was 12, and I thought his message was good because, I was born into this kind of Christianity. And so when I was a kid, I didn't question things until I turned 15. So anyways, he gave a speech. He's saving sex for marriage. Good for him. And he talks about it may be hard. Sometimes other kids might make fun of you. Sometimes other teenagers might make fun of you, but you do the right thing anyway. You don't have sex anyway. And so he had these shirts for sale, and on these shirts, the shirt says, "I'm a virgin, don't mess with me." That's what the shirt said, and the shirt was purple. And I'm this silly little 12-year-old kid, and I think that the shirt is pretty cool. That's what I think. And so I had a sibling I had a relative who was a little bit older than me. And my mom was proud of her for being a teenager virgin. And my mom said, hey, she talked to the speaker, and she was like, hey, my oldest daughter is saving sex for marriage, and I'm so proud of her. And so the speaker gave her the shirt. The shirt said, I'm a virgin, so don't mess with me. That's what the shirt said. Now, this is very foolish. Now, when I was a kid, I thought it was fine. But as a 40-year-old, and when I was in my 30s, I thought about it, and I was like, actually, that shirt was not good, because you walking around as a woman or a teenager girl, and you're wearing a shirt that says I'm a virgin. All that's going to do is get men interested in you. So at first, my mom was being very stupid to let my older sister wear this shirt. So when we went to the mall, we went to Mayfair Mall, and at the mall, my sister was ordering some food, and she's ordering herself some Chinese food, and she's wearing this shirt, I'm a virgin. It says it in the front and in the back, I'm a virgin. What part of this don't you understand? A little sassy I'm a virgin shirt. She's wearing it at the mall. And a man is standing behind her reading the shirt. He's just looking at the shirt. And then my mom sees it, and then my mom comes to her senses. Finally, and then my mom told my sister, when my sister came and sat with us at the table at the mall, and in the food court area, my mom told my sister, don't wear that shirt anymore. Okay, because men like virgins. They like virgins. They like a fresh virgin. They like to be the first one to screw a virgin. So therefore, don't wear that shirt anymore. Now, she should have known that before my sister went outside in public with that shirt. She should have known, but she came to her senses when she realized that a man was reading the shirt. So my sister was like, okay. So my sister started wearing the shirt as a pajama shirt. And so when she was no longer a virgin, I asked for the shirt, and I wore the shirt as a pajama shirt. I didn't wear it in public. I wore it in private as a pajama shirt, and it was something I could show off, And then I went to a Bible college, and I wore it as a pajama shirt, and she was no longer the virgin, but I was the virgin, so I had a little something to be proud of back then. But that's pretty stupid. Since I'm a mom now, I would never let my daughter wear a stupid shirt like that. No girl needs to draw attention to herself like that. If you're a virgin, be proud of that, but you don't have to broadcast it in public, so. But anyways, yeah, so some kids were getting their purity ring on their 13th birthday like I did. But some kids at the church I went to, they had a ceremony. And the parents wanted to do a ceremony for their teenagers. And so these teenagers, they were like within the age 13 through 17. And at this time, we were going to a mostly black church. And they were doing what was popular that white evangelical Christians were doing. So the white evangelical Christians, they started the purity ring thing first. And then some of the black churches started to imitate it. And they thought, hey, this is a good idea. We're going to do it too. So at this black church, these parents had their kids have a ceremony. They wanted their kids to dress nice, and they did a ceremony, and they promised their parents that they would save sex for marriage. And the parents gave the ring to their kids. Now, as you know, I got the information a little bit later, but all those kids who were a part of that ceremony, they did not save sex for marriage. They got their freak on. Some of these kids, I overheard them saying, I don't want to be a virgin when I'm 18. I don't want to be a virgin when I'm 17. I'm wearing this ring, but I don't want to be a virgin, So it was mainly the parents' idea to do it for the kids, and it didn't help. So the purity ceremony at my church, it was a failure. It was a failure. Every single one of those kids had sex before marriage. Yes, they did. Because I heard them saying it. Now, what was really stupid was the purity balls. That was going on in Colorado and some other states. But we never did the purity ball. And that's good because I think it's creepy. And the reason why I think it's creepy is because the girl promised her virginity to her dad. And she promised her dad that she will not save sex, that she will save sex for marriage, and that she promised her dad that she wouldn't even think about sex. Some ceremonies did that. And then she's wearing this white dress and she's promising her dad to stay pure for a marriage. And then I watched a YouTube video of this one dad, and he said that his daughter is going to be his boyfriend until she gets her own husband. And that was stupid. And the little girl, she was like 9 years old, and so she gave a little nervous laughter. But nobody in their right mind want their dad to be their boyfriend. But the point was, the father was supposed to be her guide and the keeper of her private parts until she's married. And it's not good. It's never good to hyper focus on your daughter's bobbity bits. And some of these fathers were thinking about their daughter's bobbity bits, and it was weird. And to let you know, the purity balls were also a failure. It was a failure. So here's the other thing I noticed growing up within purity culture and the purity ring culture. The Christian kids who had the ring, they talked about sex a lot. They talked about it way more than the secular kids did. Okay? So yes, I was homeschooled, but I was taking music lessons. And so we would go out in public and take group music lessons with other kids who were learning how to play the violin. And the other kids that we were playing the violin with, these were secular, regular kids who went to public school. And these were just regular kids. And they did not talk about sex. But my relative who had the purity ring, she wanted to tell the secular kids about her ring. And she said, hey, look, I have a purity ring. I'm saving sex for marriage. And I felt embarrassed because she was the only one talking about sex. And the other kids were not. The secular kids were not talking about it. And my crazy Christian relative was talking about it. So that let me know something's wrong with my religion. The Christian kids are talking about sex and the secular kids are not. That's my experience. That's what happened. I'm pretty sure the secular kids talked about it privately, but they didn't talk about it at music lessons. It was my crazy Christian relative. She wanted to explain her ring, and she wanted to, I guess, share her testimony with secular kids. I think that's what she wanted to do. But anyways, she broke her purity ring promise, and she got her freak on. So it was a failure for her too. Most of the Christian kids who got a purity ring that I know, they did not keep their purity ring promise. They did not. So anyways, last story. Here's my last story. The purity culture and the purity ring, it went all the way to Africa. Okay, so I got on YouTube a couple of years ago to hear stories of other people who grew up with a purity ring and a purity culture. And this beautiful black African young woman, she had beautiful eyes. And she said that some Christians came to Africa to teach them about purity culture. You know, some white missionaries came and told them about purity culture. And so some of the Africans thought it was a good idea. So this beautiful African woman, she had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend gave her a purity ring. And so after the boyfriend gave her the purity ring, the boyfriend kept thinking about her purity. He kept thinking about her womanly parts, and he just kept thinking about it. He kept thinking about it until he raped her. Okay? So he gives her the purity ring, and then he rapes her. Yeah, not good. Not good. Just absolutely ridiculous. So the purity ring was a failure for this woman who lived in Africa. So as you can see, this trend, it didn't work out for most people. It did not work out. The bottom line is the purity ring was a failure. Now, I did save myself for marriage. I did, but it's mainly because I had autism and I didn't want to have sex before marriage because I thought that if I did, then the man would make fun of me. So I thought that if I wait until I was married, then I wouldn't get made fun of. And so I waited until I was married. But I still considered the purity ring a failure because when I got the purity ring, I thought about sex a lot when I got the ring. And so, yeah, I think it's a failure. That's the bottom line. Now, I will not give my kids the purity ring because if I do, what are they going to think about? Okay? I'm not giving my kids the purity ring. They have to decide for themselves if they want to save it for marriage or not. That's their choice. They don't need me getting involved, they don't need me telling them when to do it. I hope they're adults when they do it. I hope when they first do it, they're adults, that it's consensual, that the person who they're doing it with feels respected. I hope they feel respected. But the bottom line is I just want them to be fully grown when, fully grown, okay? But it's up to them to decide if they want to do it when they're married or not. It's up to them to wait until they're married. It's up to them. If they wait until they're married, that's fine, that's good. If they don't, it's none of my business if they are an adult. So that's how I feel about that. All right, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe if you like this video, and I will talk to you later. Goodbye.